Don Patrick walked through the heavily manicured gardens of the government headquarters of the Democratic Republic of Congo. As he strode past the lush vegetation, the sun beat down heavy through the prehistoric trees, dappling the grass beneath. He stubbed his cigarette out on some gravel and entered the building. He could hear the familiar click of his secretary's heels on the polished marble, slightly faster than usual. She had clearly been waiting for him. Before he could remove his sunglasses, his secretary feverishly handed him a sealed manila envelope and ushered him into the president's office.
Popular pie plant, pictured here.
President Laurent Kabila sat at his desk and, seeing Patrick's arrival, turned the television set on to mute. Such impromptu meetings had become a regular occurrence over the past few months. The president silently gestured towards an empty chair. As Patrick sat down, the president nodded towards the envelope.
Have you seen it?
No, sir. Karen passed it to me on my way in. Is it fresh?
Don removed his sunglasses.
Yes. New information.
Nabila slid his antique ivory envelope knife across the desk.
We just received it an hour ago from intelligence. It's bad, Dan.
Dan calmly sliced through the glue seal and slipped out the black and white reconnaissance photographs. It showed the area of the Congolese jungle occupied by the president's son, Joseph. He had seen this camp documented before, but in this image the rebels had clearly invested in some major arms. Comprehending the heavily pixelated image, Don could clearly discern a number of RPGs and heavily armored vehicles. It looked like the situation was about to get very, very serious.
That's some serious firepower, Chief. Your son has clearly invested much more in this rebellion than we thought.
This is no time for humor. Our forces are still heavily engaged in the south. They need all our support, but with only our current defenses, I fear we will not be able to push Joseph back if he mounts an assault on the city. A Togolese mercenary army is already on its way to swell my son's forces. We just don't have the arms, Dan. I need you to arrange a swift and discreet deal with the Americans as soon as possible. It's urgent.
I understand.
The president opened a drawer to his left and removed a second envelope. Nervously pulling on his ear, he stood up and walked towards the door of his office. Don dusted the creases from his stone gray suit as he stood to leave. Handing Don the envelope, the president grasped his shoulder.
Discretion, Dan. Please. If Joseph hears of this account.
I understand.
He knew where to find him. Colonel Rashidi Kersava was probably the most loyal, trustworthy man he knew. Don entered the office holding the envelope out in front of him.
What the fuck, Rashidi? You heard about this?
Dan said, trying to keep his anxious voice hushed.
Of course, I heard about it earlier.
You know it may be too fucking late, right?
Yes, but we must place our trust in Mr. Charles and Mr. Creek.
Rashidi tried to stay calm in the face of Don's outburst.
I'll broker the deal, but I do not trust the Americans. There's no chance they can get this done in time. There's enough weaponry detailed here to wipe out half the continent. Is that his aim?
Stay calm, I have the account details. The money will be transferred to one of my security firms, so if something goes really wrong it will be safe.
Okay, well, I'm really hungry. Do you want to go get a sandwich from the canteen?
No thanks, Dan. My wife makes my lunch.
Rashidi raised up a plastic bag weighted down with something.